Welcome to the Better Than Rich Show with your hosts, Andrew Biggs and Mike Abramowitz. The Better Than Rich Show helps ambitious leaders who are on a mission to leave the world better than they found it, change their perspective on what's important, increase their income and impact, and systemize their life and business. If you've ever struggled with finding your purpose, have felt disconnected or distracted, or found yourself going through the motions, this show will remind you that what you do matters and will re-inspire you to chase your highest dreams. It's time for you to become better than rich.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Better Than Rich Show. I'm your host, Andrew Biggs. I'm here with my co-host, Mike Abramowitz, and we cannot wait to dive in on today's topic. Mike, how are you doing today?
Feeling great. I got my Papa Bear shirt on, so nice. It's a good day.
That's right. How old is James now?
James is, I guess, 15 months.
15 months.
2020. Yeah.
That's right. You're about to graduate out of like the months and into the years category where you can start saying that. That's always fun. Cool, man. Well, I'm excited to dive in on today's topic, which is how to find and reveal your gifts and strengths in life. And we have, a number of different things that we want to hit on with that. But before we do, I do want to do a little bit of housekeeping. I heard that we got another great review. Do you want to go ahead and read that to the people and share this week's hot review right off the presses?
Yes, and this is from a dear friend of the Better Than Rich community, Rachel Richards. So,
Rachel's awesome.
Rachel is awesome. So she has Money Honey, awesome brand. So Rachel said, she said her title is so good with a 5-star rating. And she said, I will listen to anything these two talk about, equal parts inspiring and educational. Tons of takeaways in every episode about living an intentional life and leveling up in all areas. Highly recommend! ! So Rachel, we appreciate your review. So we're going to hook you up with some Better Than Rich swag. So we're going to send a t-shirt your way, and the t-shirt Better Than Rich on the front, and on the back we got the logo with Leave Today, Better Than You Found It. So we're going to be sending that out to you. So send a message on Instagram with your address, and we'll mail this out to you, Rachel. I already have your address, but send it to me anyway on Instagram just in case you move. So.
Awesome. And if you're not watching, with her, she's got like 17 different properties. She's always amassing her empire, so we don't know which one to send it to. But yeah, if you weren't watching on YouTube, you don't see how sweet that shirt is. So make sure you check us out on YouTube as well, so you can check out the video version of this, or you can watch us live as we stream it onto the Facebook group, The Better Than Rich Show. And if you want to leave us a review and a rating, we'd really appreciate it. So what we're doing is a contest where if you rate and review us on Apple, go ahead and give us a review. Send us a screenshot in the Facebook group, and we're going to throw you into a raffle to win one of those same t-shirts. So again, the steps are rate and review on Apple Podcasts. Go ahead and send us a screenshot in the Facebook group, and then we will go ahead and put you into the raffle, and we'll see who wins some more Better Than Rich swag. One more bit of housekeeping.
So everyone knows, is called the Better Than Rich Show, just so you know, on Facebook.
Correct. And one more bit of housekeeping, we have updated our website. So if you do want to get some time with Mike or myself, you can go to our website, betterthanrich.com. There's a section there for a free call, and we're always happy to have a free strategy session with any one of you listeners to connect on what your needs are. But anyways, Mike, how have you been since last week?
It's been good. I mean, you and I have jammed a bunch. We sat on probably 8 or 9 different marketing strategy calls at this point, as we're looking to level up our marketing strategy and help more people know that we exist and spread our podcast and the message of, live with purpose and leave today better than you found it to the masses. So we're really excited about that. So that's been pretty cumbersome. Also launching our beta test of our virtual assistant program. So we're doing the beta test on 5 clients tomorrow. So it's been a lot of back end work on figuring out what are the ins and outs of this virtual assistant program to kind of help our clients, because I know that's something that they're really going to need. So I'm excited to beta test that, and we've been working on that too. So it's been a crazy week. It's been a lot, been busy, but really productive at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I know it's off topic of today's topic, but the way that we've gone about that, the way that you've gone about, especially spinning up that beta program and instantly creating, a really systemized version of a business model that is going to start bringing in revenue right away from day one. I mean, if you don't know how to do that and you're listening, we can teach you. So that's the last thing I'll say on that. We can transition into today's topic, which again is finding your gifts and strengths strengths and playing to your gifts and strengths. And, we were chatting a little bit before we went live here. And one of the things that came up for me is that if you aren't playing to your strengths, you're going to feel dissatisfied. You're going to feel unfulfilled in life. And ultimately, when we think about what it means to be better than rich, it means we're seeking fulfillment, right? We want you to have money in the bank, but we also want you to be rich in all these other ways, and really enjoy your life, right? Enjoy your work. And you're not going to do that if you're not playing to your strengths. So then that, of course, raises the question, well, what are my strengths and how can I play to them? But as a starting point, the basic premise that I want to invite you all to consider is that if you aren't playing to your strengths, you're going to feel dissatisfied. You're going to feel discontent in your life. And you're always going to feel like, oh man, I want something more out of whatever I'm doing. But Mike, when you think about this topic, what comes up for you to kick us off?
Immediately what shows up is I remember back 2016, 2017 when you were coaching me, and it was all about revealing what we were talking about at the time, my inner lion. And it was like tapping into this masculine version of me while also being able to tap into this feminine version of me. And all of that kind of came under this umbrella of what is my genius? What is my strengths? And in order for me to do that, I had to you kind of guided me and coached me to say, being able to tap into my fierce version of me, my power, my inner lion, and also being able to be methodical and free flowing and go with it. And this dance of between the two led me inside of my business to find what I found as my authentic self. And by knowing and revealing my authentic self, specifically around my CVI, which is my core values index of banker innovator, and not only knowing my banker innovator, but being able to tap into my treasury of my merchant to connect with people. So to connect with my banker, we could go a deep dive on this, but to connect with my banker, which is my genius of knowledge, and my innovator, my secondary, which is my genius of being able to create and my wisdom. And then my third, my treachery of connection and people and love, and be able to bring those three collectively, tying that with my masculine and tying that with my feminine. That's where I started really being able to systematically approach my business and also my marriage and my life from my authentic truth. And my that's what immediately comes up with me is, how can somebody reveal what their authentic truth is? So big, since you brought this out of me back 2016, 2017, maybe it could be beneficial for you to maybe jam on what, if you recall this, I mean, you've probably done it with more than with me, but what were some of the strategies, if you remember, how did you help me reveal what that authentic truth is for myself?
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the biggest processes that I'm a huge believer in is just reflection, right? And so when we're trying to uncover something about you, one of the biggest tools we can use is reflection, and just having some really, really good prompts to actually use when you're reflecting on yourself, when you're thinking about yourself. And oftentimes, our biggest strengths, our biggest gifts are actually blind to us for a few reasons. One is we do them unconsciously. So we're not really thinking about, oh, well, this is really valuable. So Mike, maybe you could speak to that here in a second if I kick it back to you after this little rant. But it's oftentimes our gifts are blind to us because A, again, we're doing them unconsciously, so we don't even know what our strengths are. And then B, they come so naturally to us, we don't think they're valuable. So it's oh yeah, that's easy. Everyone can do that. But the reality is not everyone can do that. Not everyone can get in front of a group and speak. Not everyone can, crunch numbers the way you can crunch numbers. Not everyone can, sit down one-on-one with somebody and have a conversation and change their perspective in 30 minutes and 60 minutes the way you can. And I don't know which of those resonated most with you listening, but the reality is, we all have different strengths. And you have some that you need to uncover. So some basic prompts to reflect on might be, what comes easy to me that other people struggle with? What do people naturally come to me with when they have problems? What sort of problems do they bring to me? These are just some general reflections that I see. The other one I would just say is, what do you enjoy doing? Right? Well, what kind of lights you up? What excites you? And so when you are excited to do something, when you're passionate, when you feel really alive, and it feels like, oh wow, this is something that I just feel like, oh man, this is so much fun. That's a really good clue that you're doing something that's playing to your strengths, right? Like the universe or God or your dopamine receptors in your brain are all kind of firing, and what it's basically saying is, this is where you're supposed to be. Do more of this. So those are 3 questions I'd say to kick us off that you might reflect on. But Mike, what comes up for you as I read all those off?
Yeah, I specifically remember playing to that and thinking, okay, what does come natural to me? And I started thinking, I really like teaching. I love teaching because I was speaking at the schools and I saw like, I didn't want to become a teacher, but I love teaching
Sure.
and breaking things down in a way that was simple. So I was like, how can I just double down on that and become an even better teacher? And so my philosophy was, if I just become a better learner and become a better student, it's going to help me become a better teacher. So I started double downing on reading books and going to seminars and doing immersion events and just constantly learning and doing even more in personal growth so I could become an even better teacher. I went to a seminar called Speaking Empire with Dave Van Hoos, and it was quite expensive, but it was really awesome to meet like Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank and Forbes Riley and some other fairly big names, and just be able to have conversations with them and learn how they teach and how they present in a more powerful way. So I started investing into what I found was that genius, which is my ability to teach or ability to communicate effectively. Another one was my ability to build out creative design in a simple way in my business. So back then it was just curiosity. I would say it was almost a big genius for me, and a strength of like, how can we make this better and how can we make this simpler, and just questioning that. And that's was where like the birthplace in our business was WhatsApp voice memos, because at the time everything was real time, phone calls, phone calls, phone calls. And it was like, i I don't want to, I was getting married in 2017. I was like, I don't want to be married and answering my phone all the time, so there's got to be a better way. And by including curiosity into my approach to my business and into my life, it was, how can I do this? What's the way to do this? And then double down on innovation and
Mm-hmm.
technology and tools. So that's what immediately shows up for me, is like, those were my responses to the questions of, what came easy to me, or what were some of the things that I was helping other people with. I'm sure there were others that came through it, but looking back and reflecting, those were a couple that I really doubled down on during the last, half a decade or so.
Yeah, yeah. And hey, can you speak a little bit more to CVI? Right, there's kind of 4 things. We're going to include the CVI link in the show notes. So if you're listening, go to the show notes. You can check that out. It's a free test you can take. I think there's also like a paid upgrade or something if you want, but you can at least do something for free. Talk a little bit about the 4 quadrants of CVI and how to understand that a little bit more.
Yeah, and I could talk about this for a half a day, maybe even a whole weekend. So I'll give you the
There you
abridged
go.
version of this. In fact, I have done long workshops on this, but there's some called taylorprotocolsinc.com is where you can, where you can go for that link. But you'll take the assessment. It'll give you a bunch of words, just words, and you choose the best one that describes you and the one that you align most with. And once you finish with the assessment, it'll give you 2 words, and there's 4 words total, but you'll get 2 that are your dominant. We have all of these words, but there's going to be 2 that are dominant. The first one, and I'll just go in order of which I am. So the first one is a banker, and a banker is knowledge. Knowledge is something that a banker really appreciates most, is just learning, knowing as much as possible. A banker is someone who is typically very organized, very detail oriented, is typically a banker. Banker is going to be someone who really um, enjoys teaching in that sense. A banker is someone who is conserving resources. A banker is someone who conserves resources as a banker. So these are some qualities and characteristics of a dominant banker. A dominant innovator. A dominant innovator is a lot of wisdom, a lot of creativity. Innovators love freedom. Innovators love flexibility. While a banker loves structure, an innovator loves freedom and flexibility and to be able to come and go as they please. Innovators are very creative. An innovator would be it would be very common for an innovator to have tattoos or piercings or really love art. big time in art, big time musicians. A lot of innovators are musicians. Anything that has to do with creativity is going to be an innovator. They're unbelievable. Their minds, they never get overwhelmed. An innovator can never get overwhelmed. So they can just learn and absorb so much information. So that's a banker, then an innovator. And then there's a merchant. A merchant is very much connected to love, love and truth and connecting to people. These individuals, they can see the vision and the future unlike anyone else. They could see the future unlike any other style. They're visionaries. They're people oriented. They're very much gatherers, getting people together. They get a lot of energy when they're around people, for sure. A lot of love, connection. And then the last one is builder. Builder for me is my lowest. Builder is typically going to be the person that it leads the charge, the one that is that takes charge of the situation. It's like, follow me. You'll see a builder say, follow me. I got this. Let's do this, right? Like a builder is going to be someone who is powered by faith. Well, they're powered by faith. If they see a clear path, they are going to lead the charge through that path. They're very much action takers, very, very much decide and do type of people. They want to do it. They want short, quick. Let's get it done. Let's do it now. Very much is going to be a builder. Very, very action-oriented, task-driven, let's do this now type of people. So we all have all of those styles of a banker, innovator, merchant, and a builder, but that just kind of gives a brief overview, and where the names came from and whatnot is an easy way to think about this. The builder would be the one who's leading the battle. They're on the battlefield. They're the fighters in the battle. The merchants were the ones that were gathering the people together and all the villagers to talk about what was happening in the battle. They were getting everyone together, nurturing the babies, nurturing the kids, nurturing the families. The innovators were doing the creative strategy on how to win the battle. They were in the boardroom figuring out how to do that. And then the bankers were conserving all the firewood and all the resources, all the bullets, all the guns, so that way the village can win the battle. So that was kind of like an example of the history of where these came from.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And hopefully you guys got some notes there. I threw an image up on the screen so you guys can check that out on the video as well, like a little graphic overlay so you can see what that looks like. But yeah, there's tons of these models out there. So check out CVI. Another one I'm going to recommend, I'll throw up this image as well, is the Big Five personality test. And let me actually make it a little smaller. But you can see this. This is the Big Five personality test. I encourage you to go to understandmyself.com and take this one. But basically, it's very similar. Basically, what you're going to do is you take a personality assessment. There's no right or wrong answer. Okay, don't answer the way you want to be. Answer the way you actually are, and then you're going to get a printout, a really detailed assessment of your tendencies, right? And this one is agreeableness, which is basically how much do you like to keep the water smooth versus rock the boat, right? And if you're really high in agreeableness, you're going to be somebody who tends to be somebody who mediates situations and makes them smoother. You avoid conflict. If you are disagreeable, then you are going to seek conflict, and basically it's going to score you on a percentile basis. Then there's neuroticism, which is basically how prone to negative emotion are you? How volatile are you? Are you somebody who's pretty moody and all over the place? Or are you pretty even keel? There's extraversion. That's pretty self-explanatory, but that's basically where, how much do you like being around people versus, being by yourself, and what gives you energy. If you're extroverted, you're going to gain energy by being around people. If you're introverted, then obviously you're going to lose energy by being around people, and you're going to gain energy by being by yourself. Then there's openness to experience, which is basically, kind of a creative element. How creative are you? How innovative are you? And the last one is industriousness, okay, which is how task-oriented are you? How do you like to do that? So you can look at that model. You can also look at wealth dynamics. We'll include kind of all these different lists as you're going through this, and to consider which option you want to go with. But check out wealth dynamics from Roger Hamilton. Check out Understand Myself from Jordan Peterson. Check out CVI. We'll include all these links in the show notes, but I really think these are great things to look at just to understand, oh, cool, like this is my personality. And you got to understand, we do have different personalities. We do have different strengths, and not everyone is going to be great at gathering the people together. Not everyone is going to be great at crunching the numbers and being a banker, whatever it is. So anyways, Mike, what else is coming up for you on this topic as we're jamming?
I wanted to mention the 5 love languages while we're at it.
Sure.
I think that's a real simple one. It's real popular as well. So the five love languages is there's words, there's touch, there's actions, there's gifts and time. So words, touch, gifts, time, and action. So those are your 5 love languages. And you could change the word love for appreciation languages. So if you're managing someone or just in a relationship with someone, I think just knowing them are important, and not only for somebody else, but for yourself. So for me, when I learned that my appreciation language is words, I let everyone know that. Why? Because not that I don't like, stuff done for me, but it's like if you wanted to meet me where I'm at, doing stuff for me doesn't necessarily show me that you appreciate me. But if you write me a note and or tell me like, hey, Mike, you're doing a great job, like that's where I'm like, wow, I appreciate that. If you, send me a gift, it's like, great. Thank you. I appreciate the gift. That's a beautiful gesture. But if you really want to meet me where I'm at, then knowing that I'm words, giving those words, also reviews on Apple. No, I'm just kidding. But so words is big for me. So if you know what's that for you, if you know you're an actions person, an acts person, if someone cleans the house for you, you're like, oh my God, I love you. If somebody spends time with you, takes you out for a meal, it's like, oh my God, that brings me more life. If somebody gives you a gift, you're like, wow, this was so meaningful. That was so big. If someone touches you on the shoulder, or maybe gives the double gripped handshake, and you're like, wow, I could really feel the connection there, and they really I felt more trustworthy around them, or trusting around them. So if you just know what it is for you, then that could be beneficial for you to see. Maybe there's a way for you to double down on that, for you to play to the best way for you to receive appreciation, because it also means that's the way you give appreciation. And if you know that is a strength of yours, then it might make sense for you to double down on it.
Right. Totally. And you've mentioned the words double down quite a bit. What does it mean to double down on something?
Double down. So if you double down in blackjack, what that means is you're putting even more money on the table, right? So I put a bet of $10 and I'm going to put another $10. So I'm double down in my bet. That's really what it comes down to. But in this setting, it's invest a little bit more time, a little bit more energy, learning a little bit more about that. So if you know it's words, it's like, how can I give words? How can I receive words? What are the things I could do around that? Writing notes and, giving that to people, if that comes natural to me. So, if giving gifts is your genius, then you might want to double down. You might want to spend a little bit more time and energy thinking and crafting really meaningful gifts for other people. You might read the book Giftology by John Ruhlin on how to understand the science of gifting, because that's a superpower of yours. You might want to double down or invest a little bit more time, energy, resources into learning more on how you can leverage your appreciation language to serve other people or serve your mission or serve your cause. That's what I mean by when I say double down.
Sure. Cool. And I think, ultimately what Mike's saying, double down, it's like play to your strengths, right? Spend more time doing what you're great at. And, one thing that comes up for me is, what if you identify what your strengths are, but then you find out that how you're spending your time on a regular basis isn't actually playing to those strengths? Well, then I think we have a little bit of a conflict, right? And, we kind of have two options. In particular, I'm kind of speaking a little bit towards, the more like in a career sense, right? Versus maybe on your personal life. But I think in your personal life, this also could be applicable. But let's say, you aren't good at something, but you're spending most of your time doing it all day at work. And what you'd really love to do is something completely different. Well, you have kind of a choice of how you want to play that. right? Now, one thing you could do is my advice is always to do as little as possible, try to change as little as possible, and see if that works first, and then only make a big move if you need to. But so that small step might be talking to your employer and saying, hey, look, I love it here. I like this job. I like you. But the reality is I don't feel like I'm playing to my strengths, and that's actually holding me back. I'm not enjoying my life. And I think it's also holding me back in my career. What can we do about that, right? Talk to your employer about how you can play to your strengths more, and maybe they can find a way for you to do that. You also might consider, is there sufficient freedom in my role to be able to actually do it a different way? Right? Like maybe you actually don't need to change your role. You just need to change how you're doing your job on a regular basis and start playing to those strengths. And Mike, I want to actually make a note that I'm going to ask you to talk about that, because that's something I witnessed you do. You didn't change positions, but you completely changed how you operated and started playing to your strengths a lot more. The last thing I would say, and hopefully I'm a little frozen on my side, but hopefully this is still coming through. The last thing I would say is, worst case scenario, you may need to actually change your position, right? Or change your job. So if that's the case, you actually need to do that. Then, make sure that you do that. And if you need some help with that and career shifts, we can help you with that. But talk to somebody, get some advice, and look around at what could play to your strengths. But Mike, I am going to kick it to you. How do you change how you do something in your job instead of just changing your job entirely and jumping ship? What do you see?
It's a really good question. And my immediate answer would be, it depends. It depends on the industry. It depends on where you're at.
Totally.
It's kind of a loaded question. It's like if you're in a job where you have a boss and you're kind of restricted. It's actually interesting. I just had a conversation with someone today who works corporate inside of Cutco, who reached out to me to ask me a couple of questions. And as we were dissecting and jamming, she's like, "Yeah, I'm very limited on what I'm able to do. Like, I want to do everything you just said, but I'm limited. I can't do that stuff." So you got to start with understanding what is in your control and what is not in your control. My advice was that I told her, I said, use RPM, and that's a rapid planning method from Tony Robbins, which is results, purpose, and the massive action. So I said, what are the desired outcomes that you have? So if everything went perfectly, what would be the desired outcomes? And we kind of talked a little bit about what are those desired outcomes, and we made the list of the desired outcomes for, okay, what are the desired outcomes for different functions? What are the desired outcomes for your department? What are the desired outcomes for your day to day? Cool. Why are those important to you? So why is that day to day important? Why would those outcomes be important for those departments? Why would those outcomes be important for the meeting? Cool. Then the massive action, which is, cool, let's put the strategy together. So how do we do that? What are the strategies that could be put in place for that meeting? What is the strategies that could be put in place for my day to day? So I think starting there could be an idea. And again, I don't know if I'm necessarily answering the question specifically, but we got to know what we want, and we got to know why we want them before we can start putting strategies of like how to change.
Sure. And maybe I can ask the question a little bit differently. Like, you are doing your job very differently than most people are doing your job. Like, for instance, Austin Oberbillig just commented in Facebook. I think you people know Austin. He was at our Mexico retreat. He says less energy on things that aren't your gifts, double, triple down on your genius space, right? Is what Austin said. And I think like you're somebody who I witnessed do that. You're somebody who I saw do that. Even though it actually bucked the trend of how everyone else was doing it. So, I don't know. Is it just as simple as giving yourself permission to think differently? Is it, being creative? Is it having the balls essentially to place a bet on your strengths, even though everyone's telling you you're crazy? Because you're somebody who did that and then immediately shot to number one because you played to your strengths. I don't know. Again, we can sift through the answer here. I don't think it needs to be super eloquent, but like, what do you think?
Well, it might not be. So
no worries.
This is good. So, I remember specifically, this is, I mean, there's a certain pivot points, but I remember specifically March 2020 when COVID happened and I had a call with you. I was at a meeting in Ocala with one of my branches, and I was on the phone with you. I said, hey, I got to take this call. I step outside and I called you, and I'm like, not that I don't buy into all the shit that's happening in the world right now, but like, I don't understand how I'm going to run the business. Like, I don't get it. Like, what are we going to do? Like, how is this going to work? And just from that moment of asking like questions like that, how is this going to work? I don't know what everyone else is going to do, but I know I need to figure this shit out. Like, so I said, I know I need to figure this shit out. That was my epiphany in the moment. And I remember you just like giving me the space to vent. And I took like 8 days. I did an 8-day Joe Dispenza meditation immersion. It was 5 hours a day of meditation and learning. So it was 2 hours of meditation, followed by 1 hour of learning, followed by 2 hours of meditation. It was a lot. It was pretty intense. So my first micro day consumed me of that. And during that time of me taking a step back and just remembering what is the question I'm asking is, how can I navigate through this uncertain times? How can I find certainty within the uncertainty? So again, I'm just kind of riffing here, but I remember going into my office, my laboratory, and just questioning everything. I questioned, why do we do this? Why do we run these functions? Why do we, what is the outcome of this Wednesday meeting that we run? What is the outcome? Why do we do phone calls on a Wednesday night? And it's so interesting, some of the answers, and you'll find this funny. I think you'll find this funny. Do you know why we make phone calls? Like our company, Vector Marketing Cutco, why they make phone calls every single Sunday night, Wednesday night, and Thursday night? Why every office still does this?
No, I mean, maybe more people are home at that time. I don't know.
Well, back in the day, more people are home. But back in the day, we needed people to be home because we were calling them on their landlines, on their house phone. And also, that's when the top most watched TV nights of the week, right? They like Grey's Anatomy was on TV. The Oscars were on Sunday night.
Friends was on Thursday night or whatever. Yeah, Seinfeld.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So those were the most watched TV nights of the week, and that's when we can get a hold of people because that's when they're home at their houses on their home phone. The culture hasn't changed.
Got it.
Yet our environment changed. So that was an example of a question. It's like, why do we do this? Well, that's not the truth anymore. That was the truth like 10 years ago. So I started questioning and thinking about it differently and saying, how could we get the same outcome with a different approach? These are some of the things I was having. I had a conversation with Callie. She was at our March event, and she runs a sales department for a company. It's the same thing, questioning why do they do things the way they do, and just asking that question allowed her to reveal a couple of answers. Again, I don't know. I'm just kind of riffing here. I don't even know.
Yeah. Well, no, it's a great point. I mean, again, we like to get off the rails here sometimes at the Better the Rich though. So if we're, riffing on different topics, that's cool. I hope, for you as an audience member, but I think it's like, A, there's no landlines, right? And B, no one watches TV at the same time anymore because everything is like, you're streaming to Netflix. Yeah. You're watching Netflix. My son was actually shocked. We were watching a show. We happened to watch live TV because we watched one show together, which is Survivor. It's like my favorite show. Like I said, one day I'm going to be on it. I'm going to win the $1 million. And so we watched that show together, and then he was shocked. He's like, "Well, why don't we watch the next episode?" And I'm like, there's no next episode. Like this is like it comes out once a week, and he's like, he was just like, he didn't understand the concept that like there's such a thing as live TV and you can't just watch, an entire season. But anyways, like the reality is it's like you're looking at what you're doing and then you're asking, is this the optimal way of doing things? And also, is this the optimal way for me, right? And I think that's a really important, flavor that hits on our topic here today, which is, does this really play to my strengths or does this play to other people's strengths? And maybe they shouldn't change anything. Maybe it's perfect for them. But when I look at how I want to run my business, I want to run it differently. I want to play to my strengths and double down on what I'm great at. So, Awesome. Well, hey,
and that also comes to knowing what not only what your strengths are, but what are the priorities, what is important to you. Because I did get to the chapter of my life where I said, I'm going to be married. And what type of married man do I want to be? And this was back 2016 when I proposed to Lindsay. 2017 is like, I'm going to be a married man. What type of married man do I want to be? And I witnessed my dad, he is still to this day a slave to his cell phone. So like, oh, Mike, I got to call you back. Someone, it's a job calling me. Right. So, and by the way, only family calls me Michael, just so y'all know. So that's New Jersey, Michael. He doesn't exist anymore. He's but anyway, so he's like, Michael, I gotta go. So I didn't want that. So I'm like, okay, what else don't I want? I don't want to have to miss weekends. I want to be available. I want to have nights. I want to be able to wake up and start work when I choose, right? Like these are a couple of the wants that I had. So it's like, cool. If these are the wants that I have, these are my desires, how can I build out a business infrastructure and a system to allow me to accommodate these wants? Now, it wasn't right away. It's not like snap my fingers tomorrow, this is what it was, but we started strategizing and putting things in place to make that happen.
Right. And again, last thing I'll kind of say to this, hopefully you're getting that flavor from Mike, but it's, if you own a business and you're an entrepreneur, you have complete control, right? Sometimes that's a little scary because the income that you make is a direct reflection generally of your efforts, outputs, et cetera, and how well your strategies are working. But it also affords you the opportunity to do pretty much exactly what you want when you want. And so if you're not enjoying your lifestyle as an entrepreneur, you just need to take a look in the mirror, face the facts. You don't need to beat yourself up about it, but you do need to take the next steps to start making that better. So, well, hey, this has been fun, Mike. Anything else you want to leave the people with before we chat with them next week?
I'll say, when you think about your desires, I would encourage you not to think about the Lamborghini and the private jet and all of those. Maybe those are desires of yours, but I wouldn't think about those. I would think about, like Andrew said, the lifestyle desires. Like, what do you want to do on Saturday mornings? What do you want to do on Sunday evenings? What is the type of freedom you would like to have? What are the favorite things that you would like to have time for? And if you start with that in mind, I would assume that you're probably closer than you think. And there's a great book by Matthew Kelly called Off Balance. And he talks about this concept that we're a lot closer to the ideal than we think. We just have to think differently on how to get there. It's not about finding balance in our life. It's actually about being off balance and being present with what's in front of us at that exact moment. It's easier said than done, but with the proper training and coaching, anyone can get there, and the resources are all around you.
It's a great reminder. And with that, I am actually going to spend some time later today walking around an art museum with my wife. I have time to coach baseball now with my son and take him to different practices and all these sorts of things. And so it's like, when you think about how you want your life to look, organizing it in such a way where you can prioritize what really matters to you. Maybe I'd make more money if I didn't coach baseball, but you know what? I think it's worth it, right? And we make a good living, so and we're getting better every day. So that's how I like to approach it, and that's what being better than rich is all about. So we'll leave you with that. Go find your strengths. Check out those links in the show notes. There's also links to follow us pretty much everywhere you can follow somebody on the internet. We are everywhere. So check us out on YouTube. Check us out on Instagram. Join our Facebook group. Rate and review. Send us that screenshot. We'll throw you into the contest. And check out CVI, Wealth Dynamics, and the Big 5 Personality Test. Until next week, we will leave you to have a great week ahead. And remember to leave today better than you found it. Bye.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the show, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from us, you can follow us on Instagram at @betterthan_rich and join our Facebook group at The Better Than Rich Show. Thanks again for listening. We look forward to seeing you next time. And remember, leave today better than you found it.